I have done so many routine videos of what I do in a day, but I figured let's get a look at what my horses' routines are and what they're up to in a day, specifically a summer day. It's Molly Riversea, and I own and run the operations here at the Cosmic Equestrian Center in Silverglade with my 6 personal horses. Today we're gonna get a closer look at what those horses' daily routines are. Let's get started. First things first, they have to get up super early. The ponies are usually up when the sun comes up. And as soon as it is up, they get busy working, begging, and anxiously awaiting their food. They sometimes do this for what feels like hours on end. In reality, about 30 minutes, give or take, but horsey time stretches much longer. It's not easy being a horse, but with enough grit and determination, they will have successfully summoned me to distribute their hay nets. At this point, after breakfast, they're usually a lot more content, but as soon as they have gobbled down that last bite of hay, they're on to their next big excitement of the day, which is turnout. Of course, they have to wait an agonizingly long time because I so painfully slowly turn the horses out one by one. I mean, sometimes I do cheat and take 2 at a time, but the ones who are brought out first are the lucky ones. Those who get left behind, well, let's just say some of them have to wait up to 10 whole minutes for their turn to be released. During that time, they have to watch their friends leave the barn one by one. They're probably contemplating whether I've forgotten them entirely, destined them to a life in the stall forever, until I finally come back to save the day. But right as they think they're about to be set free, I do the unthinkable and pull out a spray bottle and spritz them with fly spray, which to them is absolute betrayal. A lot of them greatly dislike it, is all I know. It's like I'm dousing them in acid, when really it's just a bit of smelly stuff to keep the bugs off. In their minds, this might be the greatest insult of the morning. However, they eventually realize the terrifying mist is over, and out to the pasture they go. At this point, all is well for the Cosmic Equestrian ponies. They get to enjoy the day, minus the bugs trying to pester them, despite the fly spray, and soak up the sunshine. Their favorite pastime is grazing, of course, and, reuniting with their best friends for a mutual grooming session. Some prefer to take a nice morning nap after all the hard work that went into this morning's antics. Life is pretty good out in the field. After a couple of hours of lazy pasture time, it's time for work for some of the horses. Many of our horses also participate in the lesson program, which means they work about 5 days a week for 1 hour a day. Not a bad job in my opinion. Some of them absolutely adore their lesson students and love the attention. Others, not so much. Yeah, we had to pull Miss Bell from the lesson program for a little while after that incident. On this particular summer morning, the horses had a group lesson in store. I was actually short a couple of lesson horses, so one of my personal horses, Mystique, got called up for the job. Lucky for her, it's one of her favorite subjects, jumping, and that day's lesson was pretty low-key since we were just focusing on small cross rails and tiny verticals. They worked very hard to take care of their kids out there in the arena, each in their own way. All of them are pretty veteran schoolmasters. It is really fun to watch everyone's personalities as they encounter all the different things we try out, like bounces or combinations. You'll get some that are a bit spicier, some that are a bit more on the lazy side, sneaking in shortcuts when they think they can get away with it, cutting the corners of the arena. And then there's some overachievers. Each horse has their own teaching style with their rider, and it is adorable to see. By the end of the lesson, all the kids were very happy and the horses were ready for a well-earned break. After they clock out of work, the horses got a well-deserved spa day in the wash stall. There are some horses that absolutely adore this part of the summer workload. They relish a good, cool shower. Others, though, tolerate it. And then you have a few divas who despise getting wet at all. For those that can't stand the evil hose, we typically opt for a warm, sponge rub down instead. We definitely don't need to create any safety hazards with horses having a meltdown over a scary host snake. But no matter their feelings about bath time, all the horses have one thing in common. The moment I turn them back out, they make a beeline for the dirtiest patch of ground they can find and go in for a nice long roll. They are always determined to coat their freshly cleaned fur with as much dirt as possible. I guess they just want to give themselves an authentic mud bath. You can imagine my face as I watch this happen. All that grooming effort undone in seconds. But hey, nothing makes a horse happier than a good roll, and a happy horse is what we're all about here. By now, it is approaching midday, and the horses who thought they were off the hook for work are in for a rude awakening. My gelding Buggy was dozing off in the pasture, having just a lovely nap, when I suddenly show up with his halter. He's absolutely flabbergasted when I interrupt his beauty sleep and lead him toward the trailer. And then the metal box on wheels came into view, and he stared at that horse trailer, planted his feet, and gave me a look of pure suspicion. In Buggy's mind, the trailer might as well be a dark, rattling cave that could swallow him whole, and honestly, fair enough. It's narrow, it's noisy, and it definitely smells funny. Not exactly confidence-inspiring, but then as he's debating the perils of this metal monster, a wonderful aroma reached his nose. I've clearly placed his lunch inside, and the scent of fresh hay was all he needed. Once he's loaded up, Buggy just stands in the trailer as we hit the road. Now, I can only imagine what's going through his head during the drive. He has to balance his weight very carefully as the floor is like vibrating beneath him, probably wondering why this house is suddenly moving. He doesn't know where we're going or how long this bumpy journey will last. I could only assume these nervous thoughts are interrupted by a much more pleasant one, like, oh look, there's my hay net. This cycle continues for the whole ride, and then we arrived at this brightly colored place called Golden Hills Valley for an afternoon trail ride with so many new smells for him, I'm sure. He was both a little excited and a little on edge. And once his personal stylist, aka me, puts him in this embarrassing pink matchy-matchy outfit, we set off on the trail. This boy loves a good, relaxing trail ride. Birds are chirping, the breeze is gentle, and he seems to be thinking that, you know what, this isn't so bad. Until a fox darts across the path right under his nose, and in a split second, Buggy shoots backward, heart pounding, staring at this tiny creature. It looks like a baby fox, like it's a fire-breathing, horse-eating monster. But with a bit of reassurance, he realizes that the terrifying fluffy-tailed monster is gone, and we continue on the trail like nothing ever happened. Our next obstacle on this hero's journey was a small stream crossing. The water was only up to about a little under his knees, but you'd think it was the Grand Canyon filled with sharks by the way Buggy reacted. Mind you, he is literally an event horse, so I'm not sure what was going through his brain. I often don't. Buggy finally gathered the courage and splashed right on through the stream, giving me a little dressage trot. Honestly, he was lifting his legs super high. Very cute, Buggy. Where is this in the dressage ring? We were able to finish up the rest of our trail ride drama-free. After that little wild adventure, Buggy is brought back home and released into his pasture. He trotted off to greet his herd of friends, head and tail held high. I can only imagine he is telling them all about the epic journey he went on, describing the horse-eating fox in vivid detail and warning them about the treacherous puddle full of sharks. Now, just because Buggy got to go on an outing doesn't mean the others are off the hook just yet. It is time for the next pony to get her workout in. And yes, I'm talking about our lovely pony, Belle. She's been absolutely loving her little vacation, a little too much in fact, and it's starting to show. So I clipped on her lead and took her to the lunge ring for some exercise. From Belle's perspective, this is basically betrayal. She has the most unimpressed expression, and when I ask her to trot on the lunge line, she took the slowest, tiniest steps imaginable, just dragging her hooves like each stride is pure agony. If Belle could talk, she'd be whining about how this is terribly inconvenient for her. But after a few minutes of coaxing and warming up, something in her shifts. Perhaps the energy from all that extra feed finally kicks in. Whatever it is, it put a little bit of spirit into her, because suddenly Belle went from 0 to 100 in a split second. Without warning, she launched into a canter and then a full gallop on the lunge line. I was a little taken by surprise here, fully feeling herself. She was tossing her head, flicking her tail, just zooming around me in circles like a little rocket. All that pent-up energy from doing nothing all summer decided to explode all at once. But after a few big laps, Belle finally started to slow down, looking quite pleased with herself. When I put Belle back out to pasture, she was still feeling that adrenaline high, so she walked back into her field like she owned the place, immediately going wild child mode on her poor pasture mate who is 10 times her size. What a good girl this draft is for just being so patient with Belle. Luckily, the late afternoon chaos doesn't last long, because a little while later, I come back out to gather everyone for the evening routine. The day is saved from their perspective when they see me walking back to the pasture with halters in hand, because it is finally dinner time. Turn-in time is like turnout all over again, just in reverse and possibly even more dramatic. Some horses crowd eagerly at the gate, wanting to be the first in because food, but then you have the dilemma, no one actually wants to be the very first inside the barn all alone. On the flip side, no one wants to be the last horse left outside either. In the end, sometimes I will end up leading 2 at a time as best I can, just trying to keep the peace here. But eventually, all the horses make their way into their stalls and settle down for mealtime. Despite getting essentially the same meals day after day, it is still the most exciting feast they've ever had. They are truly creatures of the present moment. Some will plunge their entire face into the feed tub, but at least they're enjoying it. Regardless of their eating style, it is the happiest and the quietest part of the day, listening to that contented crunch of horses chewing in unison. And I'll take a peek here of a couple of our older retired horses actually getting to stay out 24/7 during the summer, since the weather is so mild and lovely. We only have a few retirees, but they have earned the full-time pasture life in their golden years. While the younger ones are fussing over grain, the retirees are usually peacefully grazing or already positioned on a hill to watch the sunset, probably reflecting on a long day of simply being a horse. From sunup to sundown, these horses have got pretty busy lives, as you all can see. Definitely keeps me on my toes all the time. Anyways, be sure to like and subscribe to be part of our barn family. Until next time, guys, take care and happy riding!